And we're live. There we go. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm going to text everybody to make sure that they are not on the wrong stream right now, which they probably are. Oh goodness. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, that was fun. So, welcome everybody to our discussion of. Oh my gosh, my YouTube is running now. This is the worst thing I've ever done on this channel. Kevin, I'm so sorry.
Is there a refund policy?
I might have to talk to my lawyers about that. Okay, so welcome everyone to our discussion of Gate of IVREL by CJ Cherry, featuring a good friend of the channel, Mr. Kevin Towle from Kevin Towle Reads. Kevin, how are you doing today?
Doing far better than some of the people around me, I guess.
Yup, I'm assuming you are. Yeah. So, for context, oh my gosh, we're going off. Yep, Jake's here already. It lives. Nick's here, and we're back. What's up, Goblin? Howdy. Sephiroth is here as well. Evening all. Yeah, okay, so for context, I don't know what happened, but I was stuck in whatever team mode StreamYard had me on for our last Eebs live stream, and somehow I couldn't leave that, so I couldn't go live without permission from the team leader, whatever that means. So I literally just had to leave that team and go back to my own account and then get on. I don't know how it let me set up a live stream on the other account, but it is what it is. So this is the real live stream. I hope I didn't scare people off. All right. So yes, Gate of IVREL by CJ Cherry. So this was written back in, what is this, 1972? 1976. I would say a couple of years earlier. 1976. So to start off, this comes out in a time where fantasy is in a weird kind of flux, where we just now are kind of separating from science fiction almost. At the time, even in the 70s, it seemed like science fiction and fantasy were kind of the same genre. But in the 70s, it really started to split off, which is, of course, because in the 70s, or in the late 60s, really, Lord of the Rings took off in popularity. And funnily enough, we have an introduction by Andre Norton that compares this heavily to Lord of the Rings. But it's that schism that kind of created the fantasy genre we know today. And so this is a weird kind of science fiction fantasy mashup we got going on here. I said I was going to do this myself, but Kevin, I'm going to leave it to you. Would you like to tell us the backstory of Gate of IVREL? What it attempts to tell us in the beginning prologue?
Well, I'll attempt to. I mean, it's really kind of like it's kind of like a world portal thing where you have this lady going through time, doing battles and kind of influencing people. Yeah, I mean, it's one of these dense books you read and you're kind of like, okay, I think I understand it. I'm not totally sure that I do, but I'm enjoying it. I like the fact that you said it was a kind of a blend of science fiction and fantasy, because it definitely has both elements in it.
It's very much a science fiction story with the trappings of fantasy, because it's this weird, like, feudal, medieval kind of society, but it kind of gives you from the beginning, this is like this. It takes place in a universe that very much has weird alien technology and stuff that's been around for thousands of years at this point. You know what? I'm sorry that I put you up to explaining the intro, because Beast Reads just goes time gate problems, which is literally it's literally what it says in the beginning of the book. The prologue basically tells us that there's this race of aliens that invented these time gates.
Right.
What are they called? The Qual? Is that what that's called?
Qual, yeah.
Qual. Yeah, I should point out that we are probably going to butcher every single name of every single thing in this book, because CJ Cherry has some very interesting naming conventions. But yeah, we're right off the bat introduced to a universe that is very old, and the technology there seems futuristic and alien, but it's still very old at this point. It's been around for thousands of years. And so, like you said, I feel like I was trying my best to follow along and be like, I like this. It's cool. I like what's going on. I don't have any idea. Like if someone asked me, describe, at least at the beginning, like when I was like 30 or so pages into this, if someone asked me, describe the premise of this story, I'd be like, I have no idea.
Well, you have a bastard son.
Mm.
You have this lady, you have these gates, and if they're so powerful, why isn't anyone watching them? You have these people that are like in this medieval setting and they're shying away like, oh, that's witchcraft stuff. And like, like they're more worried about their lands and conquering and everything else. And so like you would think it would be like for some kind of ultimate being like a Morgaine or whomever or Thiel or that they would have like the run of things, and they really don't. But they're using these gates to jump from world to world in this kind of metaverse thing. It's an interesting concept for sure.
It's a very dense concept. And I was telling Kevin this before we started. Even though this book is relatively short, it's only 191 pages. There is just so much packed into the story. There's so many ideas, so many big concepts. And for the most part, I think CJ Cherryh pulls it off. She might not do the best job of explaining it per se, but I think the more I read of this book, I think I kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter if it's explained all that much, because at the very beginning, not at the very beginning, after the prologue that gives us in very vague terms these space gates and the existence of this race called the Qual that were destroyed by their overuse of these time space gates. After that, we are introduced to who's basically our main character, a guy named Van. We're gonna be butchering these names. I kept saying Vanier. That was how I was pronouncing it in my mind. Vanier. I'm sure it's like Vanier or Vanier or something like that, but I kept saying Vanier. So Nai Vanier Ichia, who is basically, like you said, he is the illegitimate son, the bastard son of this powerful lord who rules over the fortress called Nairajan. Yeah. I'm guessing that's more or less how it's pronounced. But yeah, it's this one of the more prominent kingdoms in this world.
Yeah.
And when we're introduced to Vanier, he's in the middle of being berated by his father because earlier that day he was attacked by his half brother, one of this lord's legitimate children.
Right.
Who we're told through Vanier's perspective, and basically this book takes place entirely through his perspective.
Right.
We're told that this older brother of his, whose name I'm also going to butcher, Nai Candris, attacked him. And Vanier fully believed that his brother was trying to kill him.
Right.
He defended himself, and in doing so, he killed his brother, Cadris, and maimed his other brother, Erich. I think that's how that's pronounced. And so his father is like dressing him down, and he basically says, "You're no longer part of the family. Right. I never should have given birth to you." Smacks him across the face, kicks him out, and makes him something known as an Ilin, which in this world is kind of like what they would do in feudal Japan, where you become a Ronin. You have no master, you have no lord. You're just a warrior who's meant to wander around, and if you find someone who will, employ you, good for you. But even so, we're shown that this is it's a kind of honor-bound world.
Yes.
Where every single culture in this world is so obedient to tradition and customs that all the people kind of have it hardwired into their systems where they must observe every tradition that their people place on them. And so Vanier is kicked out of his home. He's made this outlaw, essentially. And he's forced to just roam the earth as this Ilin, this outlaw. And he knows that if he's found by his father's countrymen, he will be targeted for death. It's like this, Old Testament Avenger of Blood kind of thing. If he is found, he will be killed by his father's countrymen.
Right.
And this takes him into a part of the world where this, as we touched on, this character Morgaine, this kind of legendary, almost mythical figure in this world, was said to have last been seen. It's this place called Morgaine's Grave, because long, long ago, when these gates were active, or as they call them, the fires were active.
Right.
she supposedly betrayed a good portion of this this army that was sent to help her close down this gate or destroy the fires, as they put it. Whatever she did got most of her men killed.
Yeah.
And their Avengers of Blood chased her down. She disappeared in this part of the country, and so it is now known as Morgaine's tomb. And as he's traveling across, he sees a figure on horseback riding down the hill. And sure enough, it's Morgaine. It is this legendary figure who has just miraculously appeared out of nowhere. And that, from that point on, it gets even more confusing, in my opinion, because it's not until kind of the end of the story where we're ever given a good explanation of who she is and where she came from. She's this very mysterious kind of figure. And most of that is because we're seeing everything through Vanier's point of view. I was wondering if you had like a particular thoughts on that. Like when you first meet Morgaine in this series, what are your thoughts? Because,
well, like you said, you don't really get, usually in most fantasy or sci-fi, you get enough backstory to understand a kind of establish something with that character. And in this particular one, you don't. It's almost like you get teased. And there's a couple different kind of things going on. I think the Morgaine character, it creates all this tension because, like you said, she was given all of these soldiers and she used them and abused them and basically let them all die for her own volition. And then the other side of the fact, you have Vanier, who is this Ilyn, this Ronin, and he is so steadfast in his servitude of that kind of title, and this everyone's telling him like, get away from her, she's no good, and all this, and he's like he's steadfast to her, and it definitely, that is something that will come to fruition later. I'm assuming, but throughout the book, like he always is like, no, I've got to do what I'm an Ilyn, I'm her Ilyn. I have to serve her. It's very interesting that you don't get a lot of backstory. I always felt like, and honestly, to the end of the book, like I had a better understanding, but it's so vague. Like you almost like, was there a prequel novel? Like it has all of this backstory, but you don't really get it. Like you kind of just are piecing it together. And I think from like Cherry's perspective of writing it, it creates some mystery that's interesting because it's dense. Like you said, I caught myself rereading sections of the book multiple times.
Me too.
This was one of probably the longest time I spent in a 190-page book. It's
so something that I feel like I need to point out, because I've been told for the longest time that C.J. Cherry wrote Sword and Sorcery at the beginning. By the way, this was her first novel, her first published novel, at least. And I was told that, like, in her early career, she wrote these Sword and Sorcery novels, Morgaine. This is not Sword and Sorcery. It is not paced like Sword and Sorcery. It doesn't have the trappings. This is very much I don't want to call it epic fantasy because it's not like this super long story, but it has like that similar kind of world building where, like I said, everything is very meticulous. It's densely packed full of lore that's not always well explained, or not only, at least not explained right up front. It's I went into it with the idea that this is a Sword and Sorcery novel. There's going to be a fast-paced, hack and slash, blood and thunder kind of adventure. And that is not what this is. It is a lot more methodical. And part of that comes from the fact that, again, we're seeing the world through Vanier's point of view. And as you touched on, he is so doggedly restricted to his people's culture and mindset. And this woman, Morgaine, shows up out of nowhere and says, as soon as he reveals that he is Ilyn, that he is this outlaw,
right,
he immediately exercises her right as a lord, because before she was a traitor, before the world hated her and thought that she was this great betrayer, she was basically, she had an in with one of the tribes who is closely related to Vanier, by the way, on his mother's side. They made her a lord. And so in this world, if you are a lord, even if you're a foreigner who's given that right, you can claim an outlaw for servitude, and they have to serve you for at least a year.
Right.
And like you said, she exercises this basically this ownership of him. He is her servant now. He is her Ilin, as he keeps saying over and over again. And that's really like the biggest struggle that Vanier goes through this book, is deciding where his loyalty lies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even though people keep telling him, Morgaine is this evil witch, she is a betrayer, she led an army of men to their doom, chasing after these fires that she wanted to destroy.
Right.
Even though they keep telling him that over and over again, there's something in him that just can't break away from tradition, and he must serve her because he's a man of his word. And no matter how much of the world keeps telling him that he's an outlaw, he wants to have I feel like he wants to have a place to belong.
Right.
Because I don't know if you felt this way, I was immediately, invested in Vanier's character.
Absolutely.
Because from the very beginning, like I said, he's in the throne room. His father slaps him across the face. He calls him all these horrible names, tells him, "Get out of my life. You're no longer my son. Be grateful that I don't kill you here on the spot." I'm just like, dude, that would suck. Like, if your own father, hates your guts enough where he's going to send, your countrymen after your blood.
Right.
And I'm just immediately feeling for this guy. And so I feel like his servitude to Morgaine is him, like, even in this really oppressive world where everyone has to serve a master in some way, he's kind of exercising what he knows to be his freedom. He's like, yes, I am serving this crazy witch woman who's taking me on this mad adventure, but it's my choice. I'm choosing to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like the thing was, I was wondering if at the end we were going to get this kind of Vanier's free, he's looking for his freedom kind of thing. And without spoiling too much, that's not exactly what happens.
Right.
And
I think his freedom, Tim, was him continuously throughout the story making his own choices.
Yes.
After he's basically thrown out, he still is making his own choices throughout that. Even when people were telling him, like, get away from her, he was still making his own choice. And I think that was what kind of kept him going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was cool that he got to see her, shoot like laser stuff at people.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, because we see everything through his point of view, he only has this, very basic, like feudal, medieval technology level kind of viewpoint of the world.
Arrows, yeah.
Yeah. So when Morgaine, and the first time he meets her, points this, he describes like this black tube, points it at this deer, shoots a bolt of fire at it, and the thing dies immediately.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, this is witchcraft. I want nothing to do with this. She even offers him the venison from this deer. He's like, I don't want to touch it because you just killed it with magic. And so, again, it points to the fact that this isn't really a fantasy. It's more of a science fantasy because she's not using magic, or at least she doesn't have any magic powers that I know of.
Right.
All of her weapons and the technology she uses is this alien technology that our main character just doesn't understand. Right. So it's a very interesting kind of point of view. And again, that threw me off because I thought that I thought that Morgaine was going to be the main character. This is the Morgaine cycle. Right. But really it's Vanier's story. I don't know if that changes in the other volumes, but at least for this one, it is very much his story.
I thought it was interesting that Norton wrote a foreword in the thing because I also noticed in like some of my research about Cherry, the publishers had her add an H to her name to make it more gender neutral. Yeah. Norton used mainly guy names to get herself established in the sci-fi genre. It was kind of interesting. Yeah.
Well, I guess we should touch on that. The introduction to this was written by Andre Norton, as you said, and she has nothing but high praise for this novel, which some of it rightly so. This is a very well written book, but then she goes on to compare it to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not saying that like, oh, Lord of the Rings is the end all be all of fantasy. It's like, whatever. But this is not Lord of the Rings. It's not like anywhere in the same. It's not like.
Do you feel like this one is more like kind of like a sci-fi epic or a sci-opera type in at least concept, maybe?
In concept, it is more like a space opera. Yeah, it doesn't have like that. I don't know. Like I said, it's not this like super fast paced blood and thunder, sword and sorcery kind of thing. It is more like this sweeping grand narrative that I'm sure is going to get expanded much more upon in the other novels. But yeah, it's a different kind of fantasy. It's definitely not Conan, and it's definitely not Lord of the Rings. I feel like Andre Norton was saying that just because, I mean, I feel like a lot of people back in the 60s and 70s were selling books based on the fact that, oh, it's just like Lord of the Rings. Whereas, it's not really. Yeah. And honestly, part of me thinks that Andre Norton was just happy to have, another woman in the science fiction fantasy niche.
Yeah.
Seeing, yet another woman having to conform and have her name changed to sell more books. She's probably like, yes, I have someone to relate to.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, I feel bad. I've mentioned this multiple times. I still have not yet read any of Andre Norton's stuff. I need to.
I just did the Saturday Shorts earlier.
I was going to say, yeah.
That's the only 3 short stories I've read from her. She's good.
Yeah,
she's good.
The thing is, every time Andre Norton comes up, this is completely off topic, I know. Every time she comes up, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, everyone has a mountain of Andre Norton novels." And I do. I've never read a thing that she's written, but I have a giant stack of Andre Norton novels in my collection.
So do I. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the very least, she was a fan of C.J. Cherryh, and I can see why. I do want to touch on the fact that the prose for this, maybe this is the only kind of similarity I can see with Lord of the Rings. The prose is very archaic, if that makes sense. She uses a very deliberate kind of way to tell the story, deliberate kind of language. And again, maybe that's just because it is Vanier's point of view, and that is how his people talk. It is this kind of, if we're comparing it to like English, it's old English. It's an older English rather.
Yeah. It took me a chapter or two to get kind of used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely archaic. It's a little more flowery than your average fantasy at the time. That said, Poul Anderson was writing a bunch of fantasy in the 70s, and his stuff is super flowery. So, but it's different. And I applaud the fact that, again, it takes these fantasy trappings and tells a science fiction story with them. And again, I love the idea that we're seeing everything through this guy's point of view, and we have his very limited understanding of the world. So at this point, I guess we should kind of get into spoilers, because really all we've talked about so far is, she comes down from the mountain where, she said to disappear long ago. Mm-hmm. He tells Vanier, I'm exercising my right as Lord. You are my servant now. You must serve me for 1 year. And then she tells him, you either serve me for a year or you help me complete this mission of mine, which goes back to that prologue with the time gates. Morgaine's mission is to shut down the time gates on this world.
Yes.
There are multiple different time-space gates throughout all the different worlds that were set up by the Qual, these alien people who created them. Mm-hmm. And there's one master gate, the titular Gate of IVREL.
Yeah.
And so if you shut down the Gate of IVREL, it shuts down all the other gates. It's the master gate. It controls everything, every other time-space portal in this world. Unfortunately, it is being controlled by someone named, oh gosh, again, I'm going to butcher this.
Towle?
Thie's son. They kept calling him Thie's son. Because like people aren't sure if he's immortal, because apparently he's been the ruling lord of this area of IVREL for hundreds of years. And we come to find that the reasoning behind that might be a lot more sinister than just, oh, he's this really long-lived guy. Because the time gates, it seems, have, and this is probably what brought down the Qual when they invented these things thousands of years ago, their kind of time-space capabilities can be used to, the way they say it, it makes it feel like it can help people change their consciousness into another body. They can swap bodies with the use of these time-space altering portals. And so this guy, Thaye's son, is possibly a body changer who has been just switching from different body to body over hundreds of years. And that's why he's still in control.
Didn't you feel like that was what Morgaine had done as well? Did you get that sense in this?
I thought at first that might be what it is, but again, this book, without spoiling the very ending, it ends in a way where it's like we're still dipping our toes into this. There's still a ton of stuff we have yet to learn.
Yeah.
It could be that she is also this person who has switched her soul into another body multiple different times. At least we know that the body she's in right now is possibly the same one that she had when she disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
That said, anytime someone asks her throughout the story, how have you survived all these years? How are you back? She's very dodgy about it, and she never gives anyone a straight answer.
Yep.
And the closest we do get is that she just says, I used the gates.
Yes.
I dipped in, I came back out, and that's when I met Vanier, and I made him my servant. So we don't know. We just ultimately don't know. Even at the end of this book, she is a very mysterious, obscure kind of character who we don't have all the information on.
Yeah.
I do want to highlight just a few comments real quick. Beast Reads also says, Cherry's my favorite author. I've been reading her since Gate of IVREL was published. That's awesome, dude. And I can see how she could be someone's favorite writer because, like I said, her prose it's archaic, but it's very good. She chooses words in a very interesting way. Guillermo says, I'm planning on reading Gate of IVREL next week. You should. It's worth the read. If you can get through the weird kind of structure and the weird prose, it is very worth a read. Jeff gave cool books. The series sounds pretty cool. It has been so far.
Yeah.
Shuffle Boyle, any Morgaine connections to King Arthur Lord? Okay, so that was something that I picked up on.
Yeah.
Morgaine as in Morgan Le Fay. Not that I've seen so far. It's possible because, like I said, that we have time time travel, space travel going on. In some way, it could be revealed that, yes, she is the Morgaine from the Arthurian legends. I don't know. That'd be pretty cool.
That would be. Yeah.
Goblin in the tradition of blank. Yeah, the tradition of Lord of the Rings and the Barbarian. Yeah, they love putting that little blurb on all the books. Ozark says, leaving now as you've made me interested in the book. Okay, good, because we're going to get into spoilers pretty soon. Yes, read the book, people. It was good. So, yeah, I wanted to pick your brain on this. Do you think that, like we keep saying how mysterious Morgaine's character is, do you think we got good of enough look at her character, though? Because she's very standoffish, but there's a few times where Vanier gets to see her show some emotion and so show some humanity. So I shouldn't say that, like, are we satisfied with her characterization? Because obviously we're going to get more of it. But did it leave you wanting more of her character in particular?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I feel like it was too teased for me. Like it was such a huge draw. Like you said, like we think that that's going to be the main POV in the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about Vanier, which is fine because he's kind of at her hip.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's just very mysterious. She doesn't want anyone to touch her stuff. Like she got that from a special person, and it's related to So there's all of these like touched on things that were like, oh well, that's interesting. Let's talk about that. And you never really kind of flush them out enough to. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It's just teased so much that I don't know if that's on purpose because it's going to be more revealed in book 2 and 3, and I don't know. But I wish, from a reader's perspective, there would have been more backstory about Morgaine, a little more information, maybe flesh out a couple more details because I was really interested.
I will say the intro, not the intro, but the prologue for the story.
Yeah.
Like I had to go back and read it, and like after I got a few chapters in, and just I was just like, I got to make sure I'm getting all this. I had to go back and reread the prologue, and it does point out that Morgaine, whoever she is part of this. Is part of this. I think they call it the Alliance. Is that what they said?
Yeah, I remember that terminology being thrown out.
I think that's what it is. The Alliance. or so I'm sorry, no, the Union Journal. So okay, so I don't know if I even mentioned this in the stream yet. This is the first, not only for CJ Cherry's first book, it's the first book of her Union Alliance or Alliance Union, whatever it's called, her whole shared universe that all of her science fiction takes place in. And so from the very beginning, we're told, and I forgot, as I'm sure most people who read this the first time did, it straight up says that Morgaine and her team, the initial team that she went in with, are members of this union that are trying to shut down the portals, the gates.
So it's a collective alliance trying to do what they think is the best with these gates because the power is too awesome for everyone to,
Exactly. They've somehow learned of all the terrible things that the Qual did when they misused the power of these gates. And so they are shutting these down systematically. But the trouble...
I'm sorry, which raises the question like you have with any technology thing is it good for humanity? Is it good long term? Like, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, because it was told right off the bat, these gates destroyed the civilization. The Qual are no more because they misused the power of these time-space gates. And so the problem with Morgaine and her team, and by the way, she even says she kind of alludes to the fact that she might be the last one from this organization that is still active. Or, this last one who survived all this. The trouble with this is that in shutting down these gates, she has to travel to other worlds and is then shut off from the previous world that she just came from, because shutting down the portals, it shuts them down for good. There's no time travel. There's no space travel through those portals ever. And so with each successive world that she visits, each successive timeline, she shuts down these gates and then she cannot go back.
Right.
So essentially this union is sending these agents on a suicide mission.
Right.
For the good of whatever, for the good of their kind, their organization, humanity, maybe. We don't know enough to say if it's even for the good of humanity. We just know that her mission is taking her potentially to her death. And she keeps alluding that over and over again, because at some point she tells Vanier, this could very likely get us both killed. And if it kills me, you need to be able to finish my task for me.
Yeah.
Here, I don't like you said she doesn't like when people touch her stuff. She especially does not like when people touch her sword.
Yeah, that sword.
This very unique sword. It's kind of hard to see, but this gold hilted sword, and the hilt is in the shape of a dragon. It's like spitting out the blade. At the beginning of the story, Vanier is like saddling her horse, and he draws it out just a tiny bit and sees that the blade is transparent, like clouded glass.
Yeah, like crystalline. Yeah.
Yeah. And she immediately tells it, "Don't touch my stuff." And he's like, "Okay, sorry."
Well, yeah, and I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but there was the one character that they meet, and he wants draw your sword, and she's like, no.
Yes, So I should say something that got a little bit annoying to me, but I got used to it, was that the majority of the plot is Morgaine and Vanier traveling through these different parts of the world, and whenever they enter a new territory, they're pretty much forced to entertain whatever court is ruling that particular part of the world.
Yeah.
And so the first one they come across is this, what was his name? Leth? Was that the guy's name? Leth Cassandre. I think that's, Lord of Leth Cassandre, who they kind of go about saying that he's like, he's insane. He has he's like a child in a man's body, essentially. He's very petulant. He doesn't like when he doesn't get his way. And he's, of course, heard stories about this great betrayer, Morgaine. He keeps goading her, like, please show us your sword. Draw the sword. Draw the sword. And she's like, no, you're not going to get me to do it.
Yeah.
And so, like you were saying, from the beginning, it's teased that, this is something not only dangerous, but very special to her in particular. And she tells Vanier, if I fail my mission, you need to take this sword, and its power will allow you to shut down the gates.
Right.
Because it is this incredibly dangerous weapon. And that's all we're told for a long time.
Right.
And when we eventually see what this sword can do, I don't know, in my opinion, that's when we kind of get a bit of the gas on the, we put our foot on the accelerator, and that's when the story kind of moves forward at a much brisker pace.
Especially when he comes back to his brother, a younger brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to touch on this as well. Well, first of all, I should say, besides Vanier himself and Morgaine, were there any other characters that really stuck out to you? Like you wanted to know more about, or you enjoyed reading about at least?
I really liked Ro.
Okay.
And I liked, it was Leo, the guy that's helping them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Helping them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Leo, those were two great characters, I thought.
They're interesting. Leo being the sort of advisor to that guy we just mentioned, Cassedre. He's sort of the real power behind the throne in that part of the world.
Right.
And yeah, he kind of comes on to both Vanier and Morgaine's like, yeah, I can help you guys out. And it seems like he has the ulterior motives, and that's the nicest way you can say it.
Yeah. And
then, like you said, Ro, who is actually from the tribe of Vanier's mother. He's from the Chia clan. The Chia. Yeah. So Chia Ro, who is the ruler of that part of the country, he's Vanier's cousin.
Yeah.
Yes, and I really enjoyed his character as well, because he's like Vanier in that he wants to stick close to the customs of his people, but he seems to have a little bit more of a freedom to him. He is at the very least more of a benevolent person, where he's willing to, I don't know, he's a little bit more forgiving. And part of that is because that, this is a very structured class, kind of system that we have in this world. And so you're allowed to show more lenience to your relatives. And Vanier is a relative of his, technically. And so he's a little more lenient toward Vanier. Whereas everyone else is just like, either get out of my country or I'm going to kill you because we have blood feud, I wanted to mention, however, what did you think of his one surviving brother, Erich?
A typical brother.
Right. So
I mean, he's going to beat him, and then he's going to be like, he wants to then bring him up for, they throw him in the dungeon, and they're going to bring him up for dinner, and he's trying to basically give him like tough love, and Vanier's just pleading with him, like, let me go to her, let her go, like, she has a mission, I'm her alien, like, let this go, I beg of you. And it goes on and on. I was actually a little surprised that kind of plot thread stayed as long as it did.
Yeah.
It seemed almost overdone in that section.
It's the longest we go without Morgaine interacting with a character on the page. Yeah.
Right. And so I liked it because it definitely created some contrast. It gave us a little bit of a conflict in the plot, but it was interesting. It plays on both, like what you just said about their class systems, their values, how they're very obstinate about it. And he is definitely one of them where, like you mentioned, Ro and Vanier, have a little more freedom and flexibility to think about, like, does this really make sense? And so it definitely was a good contrast of characters there. But yeah, he was interesting. I enjoyed him for what he was. I thought it was a little overdone.
Yeah, it's definitely the one part of the story that seems like it's spinning its gears a little bit, because and it kind of feeds into what I wanted to talk about with Erich's character in particular. It seems like Erich is just so desperate to get Vanier on his side, because at first we're just seeing everything from Vanier's point of view. Vanier thinks that Erich wants him dead as much as their father does.
Yeah.
Because Vanier cut off his hand at the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
And so by the laws of their people, he should be Erich's enemy.
Right.
But then it's weird. I had this kind of realization in the past couple hours when the outlaw Levi Wallace, who's a good friend of the channel, commented on the post that I made about this live stream earlier. And he pointed out a similarity between Erich and a lot of the characters. I don't know if you've read any of Roger Zelazny's Amber books yet.
No.
But so there is this weird kind of Machiavellian style family in the Amber series that the main character is part of. He's one of many children of essentially this demigod figure who rules over all of existence, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of his brothers are either out to kill him in order to supplant him as the heir to the throne, or they're trying to, cozy up to him and get his favor so that they can gain more power, essentially.
Right.
And just in the last book, or not the last book, but the second book, the last one that I read, we're introduced to a character named Benedict, who is our main character, Corwin's older half-brother. And at first we're like, oh, he's just going to kill him, because the last time, it's weird because Benedict also doesn't have both of his hands. He also lost one of his hands earlier in the story. Which is really weird now that I'm thinking about it. But at first we're like, okay, Benedict's just going to kill Corwin because that's just how this family works. But then he's kind of like, you know what? No, I realize that I need you more than I need to kill you. So we're going to be friends. We're going to be allies. And I might just help you in whatever goals you're going to. To be fair, he's a little more lenient than Erich is in this story. But the reason I compare them is because there is a point in Guns of Avalon, the second Amber book, where that kind of relationship is very similar, where our main character, he's not sure if his brother is just going to kill him on the spot or not.
Right. And
he just keeps giving him grace and keeps giving him grace. And he's like, is he going to twist the knife at any second now? And what I kind of realized was, I think Erich wants Vanier back because he doesn't have anyone else. And I don't know if I'm complaining about this when I say this, but time flies very quickly in this story.
Yeah. And
so it seems like Vanier has been away from home for a long time.
Yeah.
When he gets back, really the only thing that's remained the same is the castle itself, his father's castle. Everyone else has kind of changed, swapped around. He's living in his dead older brother's bedroom. Like, that's the place they set him up in.
Yeah.
And
to torment him.
Yeah, to torment him. But at the same time, his remaining brother, Erich, is like, I don't have anyone else. Father's dead. The grief of losing our older brother killed him, essentially. Mother is dead. I lost you. We get the kind of hint that Erich is kind of going insane, almost.
Yep.
And so I kept thinking, oh my gosh, he wants his brother back. But because the people in this world just have it hardwired into their system where they have to obey custom, they have to obey tradition, he has to think of Vanier as the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And so he keeps throwing him in the dungeon over and over again. He keeps telling him to kill himself over and over again. And yet Vanier, again, like you said, is just like, no, let me go. I need to go be with my lady. I need to help her on her quest. And Erich is just like, I don't know what to do with you.
Yeah.
So I think by the end of the story, Erich ends up being more of a redeemable character, even though he is kind of a tool, and he tells his own brother to kill himself multiple times. And he never refers to, the funny thing is, he never refers to Vanier by name, ever, in the whole story. No. He always just calls him bastard brother.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yep.
So, but I don't know. I thought the character was not likable, but complex. I thought he was a well-written character at the very least.
Yeah. He definitely had a place in the story for sure.
Oh, yeah. The only sad thing is that, as far as I know, we don't come back to this world. Morgaine is gone from this world. She's taken Vanier with her at the end of the story. We're not coming back to Vanier's world, so we're probably never going to see any of those characters ever again,
now,
as far as we know.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. When Vanier is under Erich's kind of prison, he's in the room, he's in the dungeon, he's basically getting, talked down to all the time. Mm-hmm. During that time, does Erich have the sword?
I don't know, because he doesn't reveal that he has it until Vanier is already out of the dungeon.
But okay, because I thought when Vanier finally links back up, does he have the sword then and give it to Morgaine, or because Morgaine doesn't have it? I don't believe.
No, he doesn't. I can't see that. This is the thing where it's like I have to keep going back to the earlier chapters and be like refreshing myself, because I don't remember. But all I know is that
the Lyell character didn't have it.
No, I know he didn't.
No.
No, he follows them throughout the whole story, but I don't think he has it at that
But
point.
when he links, when Vanya links back up with Morgaine, then the Ro character comes into the fold.
Yeah.
Ro tries to get the sword, so the sword makes an appearance, and I'm wondering if Erich had the sword, and then he gives Vanya leave to go, and he gives him leave to go. This is another thing I want you to correct me on. He gives him leave to go with the understanding that when your task is done, you're going to come back and pay your debts, like your servitude.
Yes, he doesn't know that this quest is going to literally take Vanier out of this world,
right?
And so he has in mind, okay, yeah, you're gonna come back. We're gonna be all hunky dory. We're gonna rule this as brothers together. But yeah, basically. But once he finally gets out of the dungeon, and it seems like Erich is treating him somewhat as a brother should. The sword shows up, and he draws the sword, and I was kind of like, this was a moment where I kind of like stared at the page. Was like, did that happen? That happened. That's awesome. He draws the sword. The blade turns from like a clear, like not clear, but like a misty clouded glass to like opalescent and like shining white with a black. It was really weird the way it's described. It has like a black sphere at its center, which, as I understood it, is basically a wormhole that where we point the sword at something, it sucks it up into this like miniature version of the gate.
Yeah.
It uses the gate's power. It sucks something up and transports it wherever.
Yeah.
And
when I was kind of reading that part, I was thinking about the Mandalorian lightsaber.
The dark saber, yeah. Yeah. But unlike the dark saber, this thing just it kind of makes me think, why is it even in the shape of a sword if it's not meant to cut anything, it's just meant to suck stuff. But it's whatever. I'm assuming there's like this weird kind of this weird kind of Star Trek kind of thing going on where Morgaine and her team, because they're going through time and all these different worlds, they're not supposed to like tamper with the technology of that world, and so they have to disguise whatever they're bringing with them as like more archaic. So their ray guns become these metal tubes, and this time portal weapon becomes a sword, maybe.
Right.
And so it takes a form that the people in this world won't. They won't look twice at until someone uses it.
Yeah.
By which point it's all over for them, because if the sword gets pointed at you, you get sucked up into a wormhole and you disappear.
Yeah, and did you also like when they were making, I guess you call it their pilgrimage, or they were heading towards the gate, when they were, well, they weren't always captured per se, but they were very leery about going to different places and being known. But when they were there, they were trying to get information out of everyone. Like they were with that one lord and trying to get the information about the histories, and then he was always wanting to touch the sword, and and in that scene we get kind of an info dump. We kind of get a little bit more of Morgaine's backstory, but again, we're still seeing everything through a very limited perspective, and it's just her reminiscing on, oh, this was my companion when we led these people through this place, or oh, this was my companion, he made this weapon or whatever. Yeah, because when he was like explaining to her, like, well, here's my lineage back when, she was like, oh yeah, I remember him. He was very, and that was like 4 generations earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It was interesting. It kind of had me sitting back and saying, okay, when is this going to get going? Because again, this is just a very deliberately paced story. Yeah. Yeah. It takes a while to get going, but I will say that once it does, the payoff's pretty much worth it. It's just, it takes an awful long time. Yeah. It's not something that has a lot of action and a lot of stakes until that very last act. Yeah. But I was wondering what you thought of the scene where they find them. What is it? It's a monastery. Like they're getting close to IVREL, and they stop at like this monastery with these monks that kind of like give them shelter in this little shed. I thought that was an interesting scene because it kind of shows a little more humanity to Morgaine, where she's, I honestly can't remember if it's this scene or the next, where she and Vanier have more of like an open conversation. And she basically says, I didn't want to leave you behind. I wish you were, I wanted you to be on this quest with me. I'm glad you are now.
Yeah.
And it kind of gives her a little more humanity, where it's like she does feel something for her companions. It's just that she is dead set on this quest that she has to complete because she's the last one of her team on this mission.
Right. Yeah, I definitely thought there was definitely a lot of humanity there, because at one point, well, up until that point, she was basically like, you're going to do whatever you need to do, and you're going to serve me, and that's what the agreement is. Then she kind of goes that. At one point, she's wanting him to not, like, okay, I'm going to go on my own. You've done your job.
Yeah.
I release you of your duty. And he's like, I'm going all the way. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. And it's funny because at that point, we're not introduced to the concept, because like I said, it's been touched on before that there are people who are using the gates to switch bodies and extend their lives unnaturally.
Right.
It's at that point where the character Liel is also reintroduced to the story.
Yes.
He's been following them the whole time.
Yes.
And it's almost just flat out stated that he is one of these people. He is changing bodies and extending his life. Yeah. Because Morgaine almost kind of insinuates that, oh yes, he's been the same like the same vizier or the same counselor to this lord for many generations. He's just been going under a different name.
Yeah.
And Vanier keeps thinking back to when they were in their court, that lord's court, and this guy Liel tells him, "Come with me, join me."
Yeah.
And he keeps realizing, is he saying, come with me, come to the gate. I'm going to steal your body.
Right.
And it's then where, we have our foot on the accelerator at that point. We get to IVREL. Not only has Ro met up with them again, but Erich has met up with Enya again. They kind of tried to rekindle their relationship, but Erich is just still kind of being a jerk. And at the same time, Vanier is still so dedicated to Morgaine that he's like, no, I'm not listening to what you're telling me. We've got to finish my lady's quest. And so they end up getting to IVREL. And at this point, honestly, I thought that we were going a little too fast, because I thought the character Phi, whatever his name is, I thought he was going to be much more of a threat. And then when they get to him, he's already dead.
Yeah. I thought he was going to be like the Sauron to Gandalf.
Right, yeah.
Like Morgaine's Gandalf. Like we were going to have this, like these two powers, and it wasn't that way. Like I thought, Liel was going to be like the right-hand man to,
right.
It didn't pan out that way.
No. And when we get there, he's been killed with an arrow. Ro is standing there, so Vanya's like, oh, Ro shot him. We're good. So now we just have to shut down the gate. And Ro's like, yeah, you guys need to get out of here. They catch up with Morgaine, and she's like, no, that's not Ro. His body's been stolen. Whoever's been following us, whoever was, whether his name is Liel or what was the other one, Zri, I think was the name of the original counselor to the Lord of that one land. So whether it's Zri or Liel or whatever his name is, he's got control of Ro's body now.
Yeah.
Your cousin is dead. This body changing freak is running around in his body. We've got to stop him. And so from that point on, they make it to the gates, and again, Erich is kind of a jerk, and he's telling Vanya, we have to work together. We're brothers. You have to stick with me. You've completed your lady's quest, so come back home and do what I want you to do now.
Yeah.
But then I guess he has this turn of heart, and he lets Vanya go, and it's like, you know what? You're free.
I like that.
I do. Yeah. It's
because I'm sorry. What you're describing, like when he is like, come, like we're done, like it's over. Come on, come back. Like And Vonnie's got to be thinking like, what? So I can go to the dungeon? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I cut your freaking hand off. Like, you're never going to
Right.
forgive me, and it that kind of seemed kind of weird. That part, I was like, there needed to be that kind of absolution, I guess, if that was the goal there. But it seemed really weird because like there's so much more going on here. I don't care about the kingdom anymore or
Right.
our family dynamic. I have something more that is bigger than all of us type going on. So I thought it was interesting. He definitely, I thought that up until that point, I liked Erich as a character, but that kind of finality of that situation, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. It feels like he's kind of just tugging his brother along and be like, it seems like he's a little more flighty, but I don't know. He's still a complex character that I enjoyed overall. Mm-hmm. But yeah, his decision making near the end is just, it kind of feels like we need to move the plot along. There needs to be a next book in this series. Go be with her. And so
how did you like the ending, Tim?
So I actually really like the ending. And again, it kind of cracks that steely facade that Morgaine has, because it makes a very deliberate point of saying that she doesn't usually show emotion. The first time Vanier sees her cry is when they have this fight with I can't remember. I think it was Rose men, because they've crossed over towards IVREL. And they're set upon by some of Rose's men. And Morgaine takes out the sword, and she's just, the sword is sucking people up. It's warping them into this black hole at the tip of the blade, and it's just destroying everyone. And one of the people that gets caught in this is, it's not Rose's son. I think it's his nephew, Rin. I think that's what his name was. Yes, Rin. So is this the harpist? He was the harpist for Rose Hall. Yeah.
Yes.
He was sort of traveling with Vanier and Morgaine, not as a hostage, but like to ensure that they didn't overstep their bounds, I guess.
Yes. He was kind of like a handler.
Yeah, it was like because he had ingratiated himself with Erich originally.
Uh-huh.
He was from the Chia clan. He moved over to the Nai clan and like ingratiated himself with them. So Erich is like, yes, go with them, make sure they don't overstep their bounds. So he's traveling with them, just this kind of arrogant teenage boy, doesn't know what he's doing, and he gets caught in the crossfire of this battle, and Morgaine's sword kills him.
Yep.
And after the battle, as they're riding away, Vanier sees Morgaine kind of crack.
Yeah.
And she like gets choked up as they're riding away from this battle. And so at the very end, when Morgaine is shutting down the gates, it's implied that Zri or Ro or Liel, wherever we're calling him at this point, has gone ahead of them. He's made it through the gates. He's escaped.
Yep.
She's going to follow him and then shut the gate down. So the gate is powering down. Vanier is able to make it through just before it powers down. And the only thing he sees is this vast seashore that Morgaine is riding across alone. He yells out to her, catches up with her, and the last line of the book is, I want to read it verbatim. Yeah, it just says, it was the second time he had ever seen her cry. I was like, oh my gosh, I like that. Like he's cracking that facade that's been built up this whole time. She is this, again, we don't know if she's human, but she has this humanity to her where she cares about the people that are around her. She just can't, she knows she can't show emotion because she has to finish this mission. But the fact that she's just so overwhelmingly happy to see him again, I was like, okay, I like that. I like these characters. I'm excited to see where this story goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Because so the Gate of IVREL is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
So by the structure of how all this should work, there shouldn't be any more gates.
On that world.
So when they go to chase Liel or whoever so I'm assuming that's going to be at least somewhat of the premise of book 2.
I'm thinking, I can't remember. I know that there is, because I looked over like a brief overview of the whole series when I first started reading this. And I know there is like one character that's kind of at odds with them throughout the whole series. I can't remember if it said it's Lyell or not, but I do know there is one character that's like kind of the primary antagonist that confronts them in every book. I'm wondering if it's him. It might be, it might not be. I don't know. But I would say that yes, the next book is going to be another adventure to shut down another gate in another world, but they'll have to contend with him at some point. I'm assuming.
Okay.
Because
so, are you interested in book 2?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. The thing about this book is it's one of the few times where I'm giving you a little bit of peek behind the Secret Fire books curtain here. I don't give like ratings for my books at the end of a review or the end of a video or whatever, but I do in my notebook just because at the end of the year I want to be able to rank all my books that I've read, and I never go back and change a rating after I've finished a book. The thing is, when I finished this, I had a rating in mind, and I that's how I wrote it down on my notes. But I kind of like the book more now that I've been separated from it, and I can think about everything that I've read, and it's kind of germinated in my mind a little bit. And I'm like, man, that was some deep stuff. So I'm really excited to read the rest of it, and I might be giving this a more favorable rating at the end of the year than I initially thought.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones where you walk away from it like, okay, that was good, but man, there was just so much like that is out there, and then you have to give yourself some time to be like, okay, because even now, like talking about going through it at a high level, there's things like, oh yeah, that's right, like you kind of tend to forget a little bit, and I'm excited to move on in it. I think it's going to be interesting.
Oh yeah. I can't believe I haven't asked you this. Do you want to do a buddy read for the rest of the series as well? You want to keep this up?
Oh yeah.
Oh, sweet. Okay. So all right. So we'll be doing this again at some point. Awesome. The last thing I kind of wanted to touch on was I'm glad you asked me about the ending, that little last interaction between Vanya and Morgaine. I almost don't want to ask this, but it's like, is there something between them that's more than friendship?
Yeah, I know.
Or is it just going to be a platonic thing? Because if it is, I'm fine with that. They've been through a ton of stuff together. It's fine if they're just friends. But is she implying that there is going to be something between them in the rest of the series?
I almost that's a great question, because my initial reaction is like, I hope there's not, because I kind of like the way it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm thinking that, okay, well, that could make it a little interesting. Like, but I think if I got to like book 3 or 4, and this is just hypothetically speaking, and it moved from let's do what's the best for all the worlds and these time traveling gates, and it moved into like this relationship dynamic, I think it would water down it.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm kind of talking my way into to answer your question. I hope it's platonic.
Yeah, I agree with you in that. To be fair, if it ends up being more of a romantic thing in the rest of the series, I hope it doesn't get in the way of anything.
Yeah.
Because if we get to book 2 or 3 and it's just like we have this, we're still through Vanya's point of view, and it's this whole will they, won't they kind of thing instead of just the mission,
right?
And shutting these gates down, saving the universe or whatever. If it's that, then yes, it's going to water down the narrative, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I said, whether or not that's the case, I do like that ending where it's like she's allowed this moment of emotion to see, someone who she probably thought was never gonna, she was never gonna see again. And, maybe we'll get more of her point of view later in the series, but I was assuming that like this is the first time where she realizes, okay, I have someone who's gonna stick by me no matter what.
Yeah.
Because she's lost so many people at this point.
Well, yourself being an author, I mean, how do you like how she set that up? Because we're definitely getting like this cold, calculated, mission-driven person. And then at the end, you get this, and this is an end of book 1 of 4.
Yeah.
So how do you, from an author standpoint, did you like that? I mean, obviously you liked that from the emotional standpoint, but from a writing standpoint, did you like that?
Oh yeah, I thought the setup for that particular payoff I thought was great. Okay. Like, you know, there were a lot of moments as I've touched on where I thought there was a little spinning its gears a little bit. Thought it was, you know, a bit of a drag, bit of a long setup. But there were moments in this book that made me go, "That's awesome!" The reveal of the sword, that it's this kind of like time portal sword. That was one of the moments, and the other moment was, you know, her reunion with Vanier and her weeping for the second time in the whole story. Yeah. I thought that was set up perfectly, and it paid off in a way that made me really happy. So
I liked for me, Vanier's character really became like he grew throughout the story a lot.
Oh yeah.
From bastards, like, and honestly, it's a very used trope. At the beginning, your bastard son, he has to overcome some obstacle thing. Like, it's done a lot, but it's done very well in this regard because it leads on to something that's much, much more, has more ramifications. You know, it's off world. Like, so it's an interesting concept. It really.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the other thing I'm wondering is how sci-fi is this going to get? Like, because we're moving on to different worlds at this point. You know, is there a world that we get to later in the series where it's more modern and we have more modern technology? Is this going to, you know, is every single world going to be like this sort of feudal medieval style kind of thing?
Yeah.
I just don't know. But
it would be really cool if like a couple of them were from your futuristic.
Yeah.
You know, and then you go back to maybe like, it'd be really neat to see like 1930s.
Yeah. That'd be,
I mean, like in those kind of dynamic, like how's that going to work, you know, with this sword and these gates, and that'd be interesting. Yeah. I don't know, but
gangsters running around with Tommy guns.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be crazy. Just to get back to our comments real quick, because I've been neglecting these. Beast Reads again points out each gate could be the last. Yeah, but I didn't consider that. You know, Morgaine is thinking in her head, the next thing I tackle, it's going to be my last mission. So,
yeah.
Liminal Spaces is here. I haven't read any Cherry yet, but I'd like to. You should. Like I said, this first novel is pretty awesome. Michael says, I read the whole Corwin cycle this year. Oh, so yeah, the first half of the Amber series is the Corwin cycle. It's great. I need to get back on that. I've only read the first two so far.
I had those black paperbacks from Zelazny.
Yeah.
It was book 1 through 5, I think. And
yeah, that's the Corwin cycle. Yeah. It's its own standalone part of the series, and the next series is like its own standalone thing. I don't know. I've yet to get to the latter 3 books, but it's cool so far. I can definitely recommend the first 2 at least. I just realized we're in spoiler. Oh yeah, sorry. I just bought the collection. Catch you later. Yes, read them. Read them, please. Chris once again says, wow, that's a wild idea for a sword. Yeah, like I said, kind of iffy on why it's sword-shaped in the first place, but it's awesome. And Shuffle Boyle, I'm sold next in the TBR. Many thanks. Bedtime now. Good night. Good night, Shuffle Boyle. Yes, please read the series. It sounds awesome. I'm super excited to get to the next one. Liminal Space also asks, is Kevin reading Elric with us? Are you part of the buddy read?
Oh, this was your oh man. Where
I know you're reading so much. So
where are you guys at?
Well, we're just starting with the first book. That we're doing it a by-month basis. So there's 6 months remaining in the year. We're doing 1 book per month, so that's the whole series. I just finished book 1 a little bit ago. I know there's a bunch of people who are still reading it right now. I don't know if you have any of the Elric books, but it's been fun so far. We have a Discord going and people are going off. It's been a ton of fun.
I might have to think about catching up.
I can't. The Elric series is one of those things where I can't recommend it enough, but it's such a commitment. Not because there's so many books, because there's only 6 main books in the series, but it gets weird. Like the first one is like, it's a sword and sorcery fantasy story. By book 2, Michael Moorcock is throwing so many different concepts at you that you have to stop and shut the book and be like, what am I reading? And then give it a second, open it back up and keep reading. It's so weird. I know for a fact that there's going to be a couple people who are going to jump off in next month when we get to book 2, but I'm super excited for it. So no pressure, obviously, but we'd love to have you as part of the buddy read because, like I said, the Discord has been hilarious so far. Goblin also points out, Angel with a Sword is a cherry book, I remember. The premise is pretty good. I like to read. The others I have someday. I haven't even heard of that one. Liminal Spaces. How does it compare to Elric? It's very different. Like I said, Elric is sword and sorcery. This isn't very sword and sorcery at all. It's very deliberately paced. It's a lot slower. Definitely more sci-fi than fantasy. Michael says, past, then future, then present, like Back to the Future. That'd be amazing. We end up in Old West.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. And then, yeah, Chris chimes in. So excited for it to get weird. Dude, Elric's going to get weird. You have no idea. Next book is like the Avengers in book 2. It's ridiculous. Like, so many crossovers. It's crazy. But before we close this out, the last thing IVREL related I wanted to touch on was the covers for these books. So I'm going to go get my others real quick. I have the other 3 books behind me. So I know there are different covers for the books. The ones that are more well known are the Michael Whelan covers. Michael Whelan, I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm gonna be rambling because Michael Whelan's one of my favorite cover artists.
Mm-hmm.
His covers are probably the best known from this series. But with it, we see something very interesting. First of all, that is not what Morgaine looks like in the series. She's got the white hair, she's got the sword. That is not what she looks like. She's not wearing the chainmail bikini. She's not, she's not showing off a lot of skin. She wears she's wearing like black leather. I think that like a leather surcoat and armor.
Yeah, it was almost like a space kind of thing.
Yeah. Like you get the idea that she kind of just has this like futuristic black jumpsuit on.
Yeah, like a Star Trek kind of.
Yeah, like underneath the cloak, but she has like the sword strapped on and everything. Yeah. And it's funny because I'm not sure, but I think that early in his career, Michael Whelan was trying to go a more like Frank Frazetta kind of route, where all the women have to be these bombshells and things have to be kind of it's very sword and sorcery. But then when we get to book 2, Well of Shiwan, she's a little more accurately represented, at least as far as that first book goes. Yeah. She's wearing the kind of more armored black suit. Vanier kind of looks the same. But at this point, Michael Whelan kind of decides, I'm going to forego the Frazetta kind of stylings. And this is where he gets really good, in my opinion. Late 70s Michael Whelan is my favorite because this is when he's doing all the Elric covers. He's getting a lot of jobs, particularly with Daw Books, doing some excellent covers for them. There's a book 3, Fires of Azeroth, where again she's a little more realistically rendered there. And then it takes a weird turn with book 4, where she's in just like straight up Cavalier, like conquistador armor. Mm-hmm. But again, it's more like his Michael Whelan's modern style, which I love.
So there's been a horse on books 2 through 4 on the covers.
Oh yeah, it looks like the same horse through the whole thing.
Yeah, and so does that lead you to speculate that it's going to be medieval themed throughout?
I don't know. Like I said, it's possible that we just stick with like these low tech medieval societies, but I'm really hoping that we get like this kind of maybe like fantasy Western where we have like stagecoaches and firearms and stuff, but Morgaine's still riding around on a horse hefting this magic sword.
That would be kind of fun.
It'd be interesting. It is a little concerning though, how books 1 through 3 are relatively the same size. And then 4 is just
massive. It's twice the length.
I think this one was written much later than the others. No, 1988. Okay, that explains it. So late 80s, that's when like the big epic fantasy things taking off.
Yeah.
I guess it was kind of, par for the course to have fantasy novels that chunky. But I don't know. I'm still going to read it because I want to know where the story goes.
You can't find fantasy novels today that are 200 pages anymore.
I know. Unless you go indie. The thing is, with the indies, it's always a crapshoot because it's like, is this someone who actually paid attention to what they were doing? Did they have a good grasp on what they were writing? Or, don't mean to be rude, is it just someone who just had an idea and they're like, I can make a book out of this, and tappity tappity tap. They wrote up a quick manuscript and it's, less than 100 pages of drivel that's absolutely unreadable.
Yeah.
As I can say that as an indie author, I have to admit there's a lot of indie authors out there who just not going to say too much because I don't want to offend anyone. There's probably people out there that think that of me, so I shouldn't get too into it. But yeah, it's hard to find like nice slim fantasy volumes now. It's all big chunky tomes nowadays. And unfortunately, I have to blame Lord of the Rings for that. Because as much good as it did for fantasy throughout like the latter half of the 20th century, I think it put a lot of things in motion where people are like, oh no, we have to write these giant fantasy novels. We're never going to sell anything. So who knows? Maybe there will be a time in the not too distant future where we get back to nice 200-page fantasy novels, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Do you have any last thoughts about Gate of IVREL before we shut her down, Kevin?
Well, I'm glad you want to move forward with buddy reading books.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I'm going to be honest. When I got to like that slow portion of the book that we mentioned, I'm like, oh no. Like my worst, like my nightmare scenario was, this is going to be a bad book. I'm not going to like it. Kevin's going to like it more than me, and he's going to want to buddy read the next one with me, and I'm going to be like, oh, no. Sure. But no, I like the book. So, yeah, I am super excited to get the rest of the series. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Well of Shiwan.
Yeah.
I guess I should ask, is there like one moment that stuck out to you in this first book among all the other moments in the story?
I would say probably towards the beginning when Vanier is getting talked down by his dad and gets basically exiled. Yeah. That was really interesting. It was very dynamic.
Yeah.
Because I really felt like where you say like the middle was kind of like you were getting iffy vibes, the beginning was giving me iffy vibes.
Yeah.
Because I think part of it was just, you go into a new book and there's high expectations. But when you're doing a buddy read, you're like, yeah, I definitely want to, make this work. It needs to be good, like you just said. But when I was also struggling with like getting her word structure, sentence structure, her prose, I was trying to get a handle on that. So all those things combined, I was like, I was getting a little iffy vibes. So that part of it, when basically he gets exiled, I thought that was really good because it's like, oh, this is interesting. So yeah. I think that was probably one of the better parts that I liked. I mean, the ending's great. I agree with you completely. The ending is great.
Yeah,
but it definitely sets up for the rest of the book. So I was really happy.
Yeah, to be fair, I hope that this isn't a series where I get to the end of it and I think, you know what, the first book was the best one. I want to have like moments in the latter three books where it's like, okay, that's awesome. I'm glad I read this whole series.
Yeah.
But if they're at least on the same level as book one, I'm going to be happy, I think.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. CJ Cherry's good in my book. The next one I do want to read from her, though, is actually, I don't know if you've even heard of this series, the Chinur series, which is apparently she wrote this. She had two novels that she published the same year. One was Gate of IVREL, one was Brothers of Earth, which I also have a copy of, but I'm not really interested in that one. Then when her career started to get going, she expanded on that multiverse idea and wrote the Chinur series, which is apparently about these sentient lion people on another planet who like accept this human into their fold. And from what I've heard, she writes alien cultures really well. Like she has a way of taking like inhuman concepts and making them very readable. So I might get to that before I get to Well of Shiwan, honestly. But we'll see. Depends on how we're gonna time frame the rest of the books. But yeah, I will say that still my favorite moment from this series is Erich having that Darwin moment and whipping out that sword and it just like destroying his room. And Daniel's like, nope, I got to get this out of here. And he literally just picks it up and runs out of the castle. I love
that. Yeah, that was funny because it was like he's under lock and key all the time. And now he's going to just run out. Oh, that makes sense.
Loved it. It was awesome. All right. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for reading this book with me. Thank you so much for being on this live stream. Before we shut down, is there anything that you wanted to promote for your channel that's coming up in the near future?
Monday, I have an announcement video for an August reading event, Indie Author August.
Yes.
And there may be someone on that list for my TBR that is in close proximity to me right now.
I don't know who you're talking about. Sounds like a loser, in my opinion.
No, but I'm very excited. I'm going to spend August, like you were talking about earlier. I was all in June for June on the Range, and now August is going to be indie and self-pub.
Nice.
August. So I'm going to be all in on a lot of indie authors, some booktubers that are authors. So I'm going to be circulating that.
Nice.
But yeah, I think it's going to be fun. So
sweet.
I'm excited.
Nice. What are you, do you feel comfortable saying what you're reading right now?
Right now, I'm mainly in July. It's a lot of series. I'm reading currently. Today I just finished book 2 in the Mike Hammer series by Mickey Spillane.
Okay.
I finished an 87th Precinct novel last night. It's titled The Mugger by Ed McBain. And then I am getting ready to read a Robert Dugani. It's book 2 in the Tracy Crosswhite series. And then I need to read a Robin Cook book, which is part of a buddy read with Logan. And I'm also reading A Purple Place for Dying, which is book 3 in the Travis McGee series, which is a huge series that Joseph likes, that Joseph reads books. So yeah.
I feel like I don't even need to read the Travis McGee series at this point. I just need to watch one of Joseph's videos, and I'm going to learn all I need to know about that series.
Every time I watch Joseph's videos, I think, okay, I need to read The Black Company. I need to read Dungeon Crawl Carl.
Yep.
And then there's this woman author that he keeps touting.
Lois McMaster.
Boudreaux.
I can't say her name. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I'm like, I'm going to have to try those out. So, yeah. What about you?
He's very enthusiastic about what he reads. I will give him that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What about you?
Right now, I'm halfway through Redwall Book 7, The Bellmaker. I have it up here. Hold on. Just to show it off. I will not say much about this because eventually, pretty soon, I'm going to have a review up. I will say, though, that I'm angry because this was the first book that takes a different illustrator. The first 6 books are illustrated by Gary Chalk, who's one of my favorite fantasy illustrators. The one that did the illustrations for this one, what is his name? Alan Curlis, and he just doesn't do it for me. And the thing is, the illustrations, even though they are just like little headers for the different chapters, it's a big part of the experience of these Redwall books. And so the fact that I am not gelling with his art style is really ticking me off.
Yeah.
But the story is okay. I have come to realize I can't be too heavy on these books because, first of all, they're written for young children. Secondly, this guy wrote one book a year. They're 400, sometimes 500 pages long. He wrote one a year, and they have a bunch of different plot threads going on. So he was working very hard with subject matter that had to be not dumbed down, but had to be made very simple for young readers. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I think my review on that one's going to be interesting. I'm also reading one of the indie books that I'll be talking about recently. May or may not have something to do with another certain YouTuber who's near and dear to our hearts. We'll get into that probably next week.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all I've got going on right now. And I say the same thing. I've been saying the same thing in my last couple streams, last couple videos. I keep trying to put out a greatest sword and sorcery short stories of all time video, and I have it all like planned out. I have this big skit that I'm doing at the beginning. I have the list written down. I know what I'm going to do for the outro. I just have to film the darn thing, and I keep pushing it back to do all these other things.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, but it'll happen eventually. I promise. But yeah, that's it. That's Gate of IVREL. Once again, Kevin, thank you for joining me. Thank you for agreeing to this buddy read. I'm so thankful that these ended up being interesting and not just like
yeah.
If this was a boring book, I don't know what I would do with myself. But once again, fun. Thank you guys for sticking around. I'm sorry that we had some weird technical stuff going on at the beginning of the stream, but thankfully we were able to remedy that. So until next time, guys, as always, farewell and keep reading. Let's get off this place. Let's get out of here. End stream.